Morning Fresh Baked. Another rope drop test for you guys. It is about 7:29 as we walk through the Esplanade. That's the front gate right now at Disneyland. And that's the front gate for DCA. Very quiet morning this morning, but this morning we are heading into Downtown Disney. We're going to rope drop from the monorail by popular demand. It feels like we're going very much against the grain. Everybody's coming in from the trams. We're going the other direction. We do a lot of rope drops here, a lot of tests on Fresh Bake for rope drop to find out what the most optimal strategy is to start your Disneyland day. And we are asked often, what about the monorail? That seems like an interesting way to start your morning. Do you get any kind of jump, any kind of head start on, let's say, Space Mountain or Matterhorn perhaps, because it's both right there? My general thought, I've never done it actually, because I've always believed it to be the least effective way to start your morning. But we are going to do it this morning because I want to provide that final analysis of what it's like to rope drop at the monorail. My theory is that you're going to actually lose probably 10 or 15 minutes. You won't get to Space Mountain until at best 8:10. By then you've already lost, whatever, the people rope dropping into Tomorrowland proper, they're already filling the queue. That's the theory. Today we're going to test that. And as we approach the gates here at 7:37, the entry to the monorail, you find our first obstruction. The first reason why I wouldn't rope drop the monorail is because you don't actually get to queue up. You have to wait till 8 a.m. for them to open the gates here. We're 23 minutes early, and the gates are not open, and they won't open probably until, I would say, at least a few minutes before 8. Some might cite the crowds in the Esplanade or even at the hub as you're waiting for the rope to drop. It's very intense. There's a lot of people. I get that, and they might cite that as a reason to maybe rope drop here at the gate to avoid all that. And certainly there are less guests here. There are fewer guests here, but they're in the park already. The people in the Esplanade and the guests at the hub are already in the park. They're already queuing at the rope. So they're going to be heading into the park while we're just getting on the monorail, most likely. 7:42, and the monorail just pulled into station, so that's the first obstacle overcome. Will the monorail be here when it's time to drop the gates or to open the gates? 7:55, gates are still not yet open. A small little informal queue has developed out here at the gate. 7:57, and the gates are opening. Whether or not they take guests right away, we'll see, but they probably could queue them up, let them in, and form a line up at the monorail, and then shoot the monorail. I want to be in the monorail at 8 a.m., right? That should be the ideal. All right, so we got a little bit of that. 7:59, they let us through the gates at 7:58. So we're gonna get to queue up at the monorail 1 minute prior to the rope drop. Did in fact make it into the monorail by 8 a.m. As a matter of fact, they just closed the doors at 8 a.m. And that was the sound you missed. I wasn't recording, but they just blew the horn. They're actually in transit at 8 a.m. I gotta say, that's kind of cool. As inefficient as this is with respect to getting onto Space Mountain, perhaps, it's kind of neat being on the monorail exactly at 8 a.m.
For your safety, inside the cabin. Watch your children and no smoking, please.
So 8 a.m., the rope is dropped. Actually, it's 8:01, the rope is dropped. Right now, all those guests at the hub are on their way. They're walking briskly to Space Mountain. 8:06 off the monorail. Two things that went better than I thought they would. A, I thought it would take about 10 minutes to get here. 8:06, we're up by 4 minutes. And two, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I like the idea of doing a thing just before the actual proper opening. We were in the monorail and the doors were closing at like 1 minute to 8, so that was neat. Now I still feel like we're too late in the 6 minutes that we've spent getting here, and it'll probably be 8 minutes by the time we get to the actual mountain. A significant amount of guests from the rope drop will have already arrived. So we haven't beat them, but we've done it in an interesting way. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of guests up there on the second floor. Obviously, I mean, well, what did I say? It was gonna be 8:08 when we got the threshold. That is 8:08 as we speak. So the rush, the rope drop rush has absolutely arrived already at Space Mountain. Well, we'll see how much effect that is. Under normal rope drop conditions, if I were to have been near the front of the rope out there at the hub, by the way, this is a early entry day for DCA, so we're not up against early entry here at Disneyland. So if I had been at the front of the rope at 8 a.m.-ish, front-ish I should say, we would be off the ride at about 8:20 is my guess. Yeah, this is bad. This is bad. So 8:12, we found the back of the queue at 8:12, and it's stopped.
Well, so now this one's
That's not a thing you want to find at Space Mountain at rope drop. If you do this right, you should be able to breeze mostly through the queue. There should be very little stopping. But being stopped out here in the extended queue is not a good sign. So
and that's the whole ride.
we'll be lucky if we get to our vehicle in the next 10
You don't even
minutes.
have time to scream. You're like
So that those 8 minutes are going to wind up costing us probably another 10 at 8:17. 8:24 into the final queue space. This is not going very well. I have to say, this is not ideal. 8:24. $8:29, and that's our boat. 8:29. That took us 21 minutes to walk through that entire queue. I'm gonna have full analysis on what that means and how that works. But 8:29.
SF-77, this is Mission Control. We are initiating power transfer in 3.
So it was 8:29 to our vehicle, which is about what I was expecting with regard to the impact of rope dropping Space Mountain from the monorail. Which, by the way, if you're gonna rope drop the monorail, I assume you're doing that in order to go to Space Mountain. I can't think of why you would want to do that and then go to Indiana Jones, but I digress. 8:29 to the vehicle. We were in our vehicle in our reference video, our benchmark for the how to rope drop situation. We were in our vehicle at 8:08, so it was 21 minutes later. Now, why that's important to note, that extra 21 minutes, is because we were we reached the threshold at 8:08. In our reference video, we were there at 8:02. It took us 6 minutes to walk the entire queue. Getting there 6 minutes later at 8:08 cost us an additional 15. Well, actually, it was 21. It cost us an extra 21 minutes. Instead of it taking 6 minutes to walk that entire queue, it took us 21 minutes. So that's the cost of being 6 minutes late. As I know it's hard to keep your head around. 6 minutes late costs you an actual 15 on top of the 6 that it takes you to walk through the queue. And we'll start heading towards Matterhorn. Hopefully it's open. But as it related to the next steps that you take, in that reference video, we talk about it's sort of a domino effect, that you have to arrive at these attractions in the right sequence at the right time in order to beat the rush. We've also caught the rush now at the Matterhorn, assuming it's open. If I recall, we had finished the Matterhorn in that reference video at about 8:30, which we've already passed that. We still haven't even arrived at the Matterhorn yet. So it puts you well behind. Even though we rope dropped it on time, it puts you well behind. And there you go, there's the Matterhorn. It's got here a little late. We were jibber jabbering there for a few minutes. It's 8:45 as we approach the Matterhorn, posted at 10. But yeah, we did miss, or caught the rush, I guess is the right term here. We didn't miss it. So we would be even further behind schedule now. Hi, good morning. Now, as we wait our turn here in the Matterhorn queue, let me go ahead and qualify this, clarify that I'm not disappointed, you know, like I'm still having a great time, but I got to ride the monorail right off the bat, which was nice. Count that. We're on our third ride now, technically speaking. I just wouldn't put a high priority on the monorail at 8 a.m., but you know, we still got to ride this at Space Mountain, which is delightful. It was amazing. We're gonna get to ride the Matterhorn at 8:45 in the morning, and I'm happy about that as well. So I guess what, you know, this analysis, what we're talking about here is just, you know, how to optimize and what is the best strategy. It's not about having the most fun per se, unless being, you know, a park dominator is fun for you, but this is just about time, not about fun. $8:57, and that's our boat, 12 minutes. And to sort of summarize that conversation, I feel like the truest thing that somebody could say about strategies and going to Disneyland is that there is no wrong way. There's no wrong way to do Disneyland. There are efficient ways, there are time-saving ways, but there's no wrong way. Enjoy yourself. And that's 9:01 back out into the streets of Disneyland. And the Matterhorn queue is backing up a little further. They still got it posted at 10. It wasn't even 10 when we went through there. It was 12 just now. That queue's probably closer to 20 at this point. Oh, what have we got here? Got a little construction update for you on this rope drop morning. They're painting the rock work here at Teacups. That's great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Can we talk about crowds for a second now? It's 9 a.m. and look at Fantasyland. Fantasyland's kind of light. There's hardly any strollers out here. Compare this to the scene that we found at 9:30 a.m. just a week ago. That's got to be the $50 ticket, right? So I think we've got our answer on that. I mean, preliminarily speaking, rope drop was lighter than usual today. Hey, hi guys. Rope drop was lighter than usual today. The parking situation was soup. Oh my gosh, you guys, there was no cars in the parking lot when I got here this morning. And it was even after 7. Good morning, guys. I'm gonna have to come back and check on that at 10 a.m. or so, but for now, I wanna go to Rise of the Resistance. We have been trying to test hitting Rise not at 8 a.m., but at 9 a.m. I don't like going to Rise at 8 because you miss out on so much opportunity in that hour that it takes you. But at 9 a.m. I feel like it's right. However, and this is going to be a good test for another theory that I have, I just checked the tip board and it is open, so that's good. You should always check the tip board to see if Rise is open before you head that direction, especially in the morning. But as you can see, the tip board says 75 minutes right now for Rise, which is a lot for this time in the morning. Usually on a slow morning like this at 9 a.m., you don't normally see 75 minutes. That's a call to action to stay away. I'm gonna find out how true that 75 is. My guess, my hunch, my theory right now is that we're looking at 30 or 40 minutes. What's up, Joey? Okay, we've arrived at Rise of the Resistance at 9:08. 9:08. Posted went down to 60, as I can see on the board. You guys can't see it, but I can. And that sign right there says 60 minutes. Bright Suns. Let's see if the tip board has updated itself. Usually those are pretty much in sync. What they have on the board out here at the door and what they have on the tip board is usually in sync. Yeah, the tip board does say now 60 minutes. So already we are seeing that was a call to stay away, that folks are staying away, they're doing something else in this morning, and the standby queue is already reducing. As a matter of fact, we're gonna hit the back of the queue here in section 2. There you go, that's the back of the queue right there. We're almost at section 1. I mean, really it is. Section 1, that's great. And that's the Ray Room at 9:40, 32 minutes.
Time to waste. Let's get you on your way to the General.
So 32 minutes to the Ray Room, about what we were expecting. This wound up being kind of a perfect case study of something that we talk about often in terms of looking at the tip board and doing the opposite. We saw 75 and I'm like, that's a good sign. I like that 75 on the tip board. When we get there, the people will have been staying away for a little while. While we were in the queue, it dropped down to 60 and then it dropped again down to 40. It was at 40 minutes at one point. I want to say in the Armory, it was at 40 minutes. I think I've got a screenshot of that. That's a call to action now for people to show up. And sure enough, as we came out of the attraction just now, having finished the attraction, 65 minutes now on the tip board. Now, having said that, that 65 minutes is not a call to action now to get in the queue. Back then at 9:30 or 9:08 it was, but not now at, what is it, 10? It is 10:01. That's standard. 65 minutes is pretty standard now. When we got here at 9:30, the back of the queue was here in section 1 down there. It has filled up section 2, and section 3 is nearly full as we come around. There's the back of the queue right there. At section 3, that's not going to come down. That I don't think is going to come down. That's a pretty standard queue, at least in terms of where the back of the standby queue is. So now the next call to action in terms of staying away, when you look at the tip board, might be something around 90 minutes. You see the tip board at 90 minutes and you're in the neighborhood, come by, take a look and see what happens. Wait a few minutes perhaps, come by, take a look and see what happens. 10:12 a.m. out here on the rivers of America with our final analysis about rope dropping Disneyland from the Downtown Disney Station and the monorail. As it pertains to being efficient, is it an efficient way to get into the park on a rope drop morning? Do you beat the crowds in any way? No, you do not. Not at all. Not even close. It's actually a detriment to your morning if it is a priority for you to be efficient. If you are trying to maximize your time, if you're trying to get to Space Mountain as quickly as possible, which again, as I mentioned, is probably the only reason why I could think of why you'd want to, rope drop monorail from the Downtown Disney Station is to get to Space Mountain or Matterhorn, perhaps. But no, you lose a good, I'd say 15 minutes to the rest of the crowd, and that changes everything in terms of how you each of those successive dominoes fall with the subsequent attractions that you hit. Having said that, there's probably a couple of reasons why you might want to rope drop. They're very specific. If you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel, Pixar Place Hotel, or Grand Californian, and you are trying to get to the park early, but you're not quite there for a proper rope drop, let's say getting to the gate at 7:30. Let's say you leave your hotel at 7:50. Well, now it's actually not a bad idea to go ahead and hit that because there's nobody waiting, or at least there wasn't on this morning. It was not as busy as it could have been. But you're gonna have very little resistance. You're gonna get right on that monorail at 8 a.m. if you get there about that time. And then you're in the park at 8:06. You're into the park at 8:06. That's not terrible. You're saving yourself all that footsteps, and you're getting there at about the same time it would have taken you to walk there. But that's the very specific, narrow reason in terms of saving time. Otherwise, if you're trying to beat the rush to get to Space Mountain, you want to be at the Tomorrowland entrance at 7:35 if they let guests in, if they drop the gates, or if they open the gates at the Esplanade at 7:30. And then, of course, there's the idea that none of that matters. And you're at Disneyland, and you just enjoy yourself. Do what you like. Have fun. Like these folks getting on the Mark Twain at 10:15 a.m. I might not recommend that. I might not recommend getting on the Mark Twain at 10:15 a.m. I might try to hit a couple other attractions before we do that, because the Mark Twain will always be available for you. But if you love the Mark Twain, as I do, then go for it. Do what you like. As for me, I think we're gonna close our day off with a trip back down Main Street on the omnibus.
We're going to head to Main Street USA and go over to Town Square, and in doing so, please remain fully seated. In front of City Hall, and the engine is